Welcome back. Now, today I want to share a template that I developed for opposing an employer's motion for summary judgment. I get asked for templates and examples all the time, and I thought opposition was a good place to start because there's such a need for it. I mean, summary judgment is where a lot of our claims go to die. And the template is mostly targeted for those of us who don't have an attorney yet, but if you actually download and look at the template, you'll find some information there that I think will be useful to just about all of you at summary judgment. Now, originally I'd planned to walk through the template in detail, and I actually recorded that yesterday. But when I finished, I had about an hour of video, and for most of that time I was just reading. And I figure you guys don't need me to read to you. So today I've decided to regroup and just hit the high points. Now I'm going to upload the template along with a few instructions so you can check that out for yourselves. And in the description, I'll put a link to where you can download it. Now keep in mind that I'm not an attorney and this template is not going to be universal. Different court systems and judges have their own ways of doing things, so you need to follow your local rules. And in the template file itself, I'll put some information on where you can find those. Now this template combines 3 sources of information. I started with the opposition that I filed in my case, and then I enhanced that with a little help from Sedient and ChatGPT. I figured that if all 3 of those agree, it's probably a decent starting place for you. And today we're just going to scroll through it real quickly, and I'm going to hit top level what the document structure is and what should go into each section. Like I said, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because it would get pretty long. There is one thing that I need to say about summary judgment up front, and it's pretty basic. The rules of federal civil procedures say that summary judgment can only be granted if 2 conditions are met. There are no disputes of any material fact, and our employer's motion establishes that based on those undisputed facts, the law is on their side. And if our opposition shows those conditions haven't been met, then the law says our judge shouldn't grant our employer's motion for summary judgment. Now next week we'll get into some of the case law around that, but for today, with that little bit of background, let's look at the template. Now the header block is self-explanatory, so let's just go right to the introduction. And here we want to briefly explain that the court should deny summary judgment because there are important facts in dispute that can only be decided at trial. And I just want to point out that in blue, as we go through today, you'll see that I've flagged some places where you're going to need to plug in information that's specific to your case, and that's to help you tailor this document for your needs. The next section is our statement of material fact. Now, most of the time, I've seen this in table form, which is how I did it. Actually, I did 2 tables, but some districts and some judges are going to prefer a narrative or even a bulleted format. But generally, they're all going to be after the same kind of information that goes into this table. Now, Table 1 lists all the facts in our employer's motion that we're disputing, along with a brief description of our dispute and a citation to the evidence we have that backs us up. All our disputes do have to be based on evidence, so we don't want to skip these citations. Now, in our employer's motion, there are going to be facts that we agree with, of course, but we don't have to list any of those here. Table 2 is a different kind of dispute. These are facts that are material to our case that our employer neglected to mention in their motion. And typically, these are going to be evidence of some kind of pretext. And if we can show enough evidence of pretext for a reasonable jury to find in our favor at trial, then that alone can defeat our employer's motion for summary judgment. Next, we move into the legal standards that apply at summary judgment. And these are fairly straightforward, but we'll talk about them when we get into the case law of this whole thing next time. Once the legal standards are laid out, we move into arguments. And I only had 2 of these. One, that there are genuine disputes of material fact, and therefore there can be no summary judgment. And 2, that I presented evidence of pretext. Therefore, there can be no summary judgment. Now, you might want to add more or flesh these arguments out more. That's up to you. But in mine, I kept it really simple. And once our arguments are done, we can say that based on our disputed facts and evidence of pretext, a reasonable jury could find in our favor at trial. Therefore, summary judgment is improper, and we request that our judge not grant our employer's motion. Once we proofread this and our document has been completed, we have to serve it to our employer's counsel. And to do this, you really need to check your local requirements and follow them. And once it's been served, we have to sign a certification and attach it before we actually file our opposition with the court. Now, like I said before, this template isn't universal and it's not going to be perfect. So if you find issues with it or you have questions about it, drop me a comment and let me know. Next week, I want to walk through some of the case law that I've referenced in the template and talk about it in a little bit of detail. And if that's something that you're interested in, be sure that you've hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. Until then, you guys take care and hang in.